He's going to get it done. In fact, I think he put his hand up to take that oath, that he was going to get it done. And he is. We would love to work with Congress to do that. That's the right way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it. It's the fastest way to do it. But if Congress won't participate and won't go along, we'll figure out a way to do it with executive authority. And let's be clear about this, legal executive authority. This is not a circumstance of the president overstepping his bounds.
Well, that is acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney with the clock ticking to reach a border security deal before next Friday's deadline. February 15th is the day to avert another government shutdown. Joining us now, New York Congressman Lee Zeldin. Congressman, thanks for your time this morning. So, will a deal get done by this deadline?
I sure hope so. Congress needs to do its job. As Mick was just talking about in that segment you just played, that's really plan A, is for Congress to do its job. Americans want our border to be secure. We've heard all of the reasons why, whether it's people who come here illegally or things, if you want to combat human trafficking, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, arms trafficking. On the merits, the president has stated a clear-cut case as to why this needs to get done. The experts have, the Secretary of Homeland Security has. So it's a matter of individuals who are in Congress who don't like the president need to understand that that's not a good reason not to cut a deal. In order to fund our government and protect our border, there is a great deal to be had, and hopefully it does happen on time.
What is the conversation with your colleagues in the House as to how to accomplish this? How do you come together to get this done and, as you said, do your job?
I think there was great progress towards the end of the shutdown. In my conversations with colleagues, they started to say on the other side of the aisle, they said, why don't we just sit down and figure it out? And I would say, exactly. Then you had several dozen members, including just before the shutdown ended, Steny Hoyer was on with Neil Cavuto on your channel, where he said that he would be in favor of increased funding to harden our physical border barriers. So whatever you want to call it, there's a vulnerability that exists. No one's proposing a wall from sea to shining sea on top of the Huachuca Mountains or in the middle of the Rio Grande. We have a vulnerability for parts of our border. It needs to be addressed. But I feel like many of my colleagues, since maybe the third or fourth week of the shutdown, have really started to come around and articulating that to leadership that they need to compromise.
Doug Collins, the Republican from Georgia, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, was on earlier making this point about the president's possibility of declaring a national emergency. Listen.
Here's what's the sad part about this is that the president is being forced to use the kind of authority that he has to take care of the country when the Democratic side is offering nothing to protect. In fact, they're saying it's morally wrong to even stop people at the border. So I think we've got a problem here.
Got a big problem here. And to go to another one of your colleagues, Jim Jordan, was on Fox earlier today talking about Nancy Pelosi, the things she has said in the past, and what that means for today. Here's that.
Done a great job, by the way. Pelosi herself has said walls are immoral. I did a tweet the other day and I said, well, if walls are immoral, where's your legislation, Madam Speaker? Where's your legislation to actually take down the wall between Tijuana and San Diego? So their positions are entirely inconsistent because they're focused on one thing, stopping the president.
Quite a battle that is brewing here, Congressman.
Yeah, no doubt. And you could add to that in 2006, Senator Schumer, President Obama, then Senator Obama, Senator Clinton, they all voted for the Secure Fence Act. Just last year, fiscal year 2018, there was an appropriations bill that was passed and signed into law that increased funding to harden our border, to improve our physical barrier. So just last fiscal year, you have evidence of Democrats who were doing the right thing and voting for this important need with regards to border security. So the amoral argument is really just one to dodge the most honest answer, which would be they dislike the president, and because of that, that's why they opposed the wall. They had no problem with this until the president wanted it, and even after the president got sworn into office, some of them have supported it.
But still, this deadline's quickly approaching. I only have a few seconds left. This weekend, do talks continue through the weekends? What are you going to do to buckle down and make sure that we don't see another shutdown?
What I'm hearing from members of that conference committee, Republicans, Democrats, House, Senate, that whether it's the member-to-member level, the staff level, they're going to be working through the weekend to try to have a deal done. If it's not done before the weekend, to have it done after the weekend to avoid a shutdown. I take that from them in good faith and their positivity in good faith. They just need to get it across the finish line.
Congressman Lee Zeldin, thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
So for Virginia now, the top three elected officials, all Democrats, under pressure now to resign. So who becomes governor if all three go? We'll talk to the chairman of the Virginia Republican Party in a moment about that and how Democrats are pushing social policies impacting the party's chances in 2020. Governor Mike Huckabee is along to address that. Coming up shortly.
It doesn't work. It never has worked. One of the things that always stuns me about socialists is that despite the fact that history is just littered with examples of how it doesn't work and hurts people, they come out and say, well, they just didn't do it right. If you give us the power to do it, if you elect us, we'll be socialists and we'll do it right this time.
Medication. AstraZeneca may be able to help.
He has no basis to do that. He's just a political hack who's trying to build a name for himself, and I think that's fine because that's what they do. But there would be no reason to do that. No other politician has to go through that. It's called presidential harassment, and it's unfortunate, and it really does hurt our country.
President Trump taking on Congressman Adam Schiff after the chairman of the House Intel Committee announced a new investigation into Russian election interference that will also examine the president's foreign financial interests. New York Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney serves on the Intel Committee and joins us now. What do you think of this, Congressman?
Well, I think it's silly, and I think we should be judged by our work. I think to say that no other politician goes through this scrutiny would come as news to Secretary Clinton, who endured 2 years of a Benghazi investigation, or to any of us who served in Democratic administrations who saw the extraordinary level of scrutiny from special counsels, independent counsels, congressional oversight. It's actually a good thing.
To be clear, Congressman, you think that the president's reaction is silly. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, it's unfounded and it's silly because, for one thing, the committee met for the first time yesterday. We actually haven't done anything yet except to try and lay out how to safeguard the integrity of our investigation. It's not going to be okay to lie to this committee, and it's not going to be okay to just whitewash what should have been serious areas of inquiry into foreign influence, Russian influence in the last election. And I think we should be judged by our work, and I'm very comfortable with that standard.
But the basis of for launching the new investigation is warranted, you're saying?
Well, what do you think? We've got 36 indictments by the special counsel's office. We've got 5 former Trump aides who have reached plea deals, and there are large holes in that investigation. The report the Republicans did in the last Congress isn't worth the paper it was written on, and we owe it to the American people to do a thorough job there and also to defend the integrity of our investigations when people come before the committee and lie.
But just to be clear, we're talking about investigating the president's financial interests, and so far the investigation in the case of the Robert Mueller investigation has not turned up anything on the president specifically.
No, that's right. And I was referring to the gaps in the previous investigation about a foreign attack on our elections. But with respect to what you're talking about, that's not an investigation per se of the president's finances. It's a look at what potential foreign influence there is over senior members of the United States government, including the president. And that is very well founded, given what we know already.
So in the president's words, when he says he has no basis to do that, talking about Adam Schiff launching this investigation, what is the basis for this?
Well, you'd have to be willfully blind to the work of the special counsel that we already know about. We know it's been established beyond peradventure that there was a highly coordinated, extensive effort at foreign influence during our elections and to compromise senior members of the Trump administration in any way they could. And the fact is that we have not looked at all the areas that involves. And we should all care about this because it's about the national security of the United States. Now, it is a fair concern to say that this shouldn't be some partisan witch hunt. It shouldn't be some fishing expedition. All of us who lived through the kangaroo court of the Benghazi investigation know what that can look like. So judge us by our work. But we started yesterday, so it's a little premature to start throwing around name calling when you're talking about a former United States attorney who's a serious lawyer and a bipartisan member of Congress, Chairman Schiff.
So we asked about Judge Andrew Napolitano about this, and he responded with this.
Don't you need some suspicion, some kernel of evidence to start an investigation? You do if it's a criminal investigation. You don't if it's the Congress. unfortunately for the president, unfortunately for all presidents, that Congress can investigate whatever it wants, and it can literally engage in a witch hunt, whether there's evidence there or not.
So, obviously, to provide some sort of clarity on this and whether or not Congress should be, or if they're in the bounds of launching this investigation, he says yes, because it is not criminal. But final question to you: Do you have an
excuse me?
Go ahead, Congress.
Excuse me. I think what the judge was saying was that Congress has a constitutional oversight obligation. It should not stray into a witch hunt or into a fishing expedition like we saw in the Benghazi investigation and others. And both parties are capable of doing this. That's why I'm saying judge us by our work. But we are not a criminal. We are not a criminal investigative agency. We are the United States Congress, and we do oversight.
Judge was
and
making
oversight
that very
has
clear.
been lacking.
All right, Congressman.
So I agree with the judge.
Sean Patrick Maloney, appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another summit. The president and Chairman Kim is on the horizon, where there is new hope for a potential breakthrough.